Hey, we're going to look at the A.R.R.T method of compressing. This is an approach, not the only way to compress. This is using compressors in a much more functional and, dare I say, traditional fashion. This is enabling them to be more transient designers, a way to go after particular types of energy within the signal. So this is particularly good for making kicks more punchy, making snares more snappy, making guitar strikes more aggressive, looking out for the front end detail and almost separating it from control of the tail end information. This thing is particularly good downstream, later on in your mix, when everything is fighting for its place in the mix. This will help these instruments cut through the noise a little more. And it's not a way of redesigning sounds. That type of compression, really the gloves are off. As I keep saying, those kind of creative types of compression, really it's just down to your imagination. This is using them in a much more functional way to make the signals stronger and more usable. I'm going to do this in Logic just to prove that I'm not only a tools man, I can use Logic. No, I can't use Logic, that's a lie. But I will just to help out this time. There is one particular thing I need just to be aware of. This technique will not work if this function here in Logic is on. This auto release function may be useful in certain circumstances, but what this does is take the control of the release dial here away from you, and this is an extremely important control in any compression setup, really. This is the timing, this is where the feel of the compressor lies. So there are some points where auto release is used, is something that you can use and take advantage of. That's a different subject. Best off to click off the auto, make sure that is disengaged. Logic loads it as default. I would then suggest maybe saving this as your default setting. So just a suggestion. But anyway, here's how you set up. First off, take off auto down here. The start position, and this will work for most of these compressor settings down here. I'm just going to go for a standard compressor style. What you're looking for is a very high ratio to begin with. You are looking for no knee. You want the compression to be aggressive to begin with in order to hear what you're doing. The attack time needs to be minimal and the release time minimal. The input needs to be quite heavy and the threshold at minimum. What you're looking for initially is a really destroyed signal. This is a step-by-step process. You've got to go through these in order to get to the end result, and it shows at the end. It sounds awful at the beginning, but it works itself out. So this is how the snare sounds once you have these initial settings set. Now you can hear it's extreme, the compressor's working extremely hard, and we're now just looking to isolate the attack. Hopefully you can hear me over the top of this. I'm going to release the attack really slowly, and just on this particular thing, on the snare drum, you're looking for the snare, the stick hitting the snare. You can start to hear it if I loosen this out. Now you can start to hear. And if I go too far, you can hear the rest of the drum beginning to show its head. That's not what we're interested in. We're just interested at the moment in just grabbing hold of that front end tack. That's the power that's going to cut through. Right, the next dial to go to in the A.R.R.T method, funnily enough, is one of the other R functions, release. What you're looking for here is the release to open out almost fully so that the next attack is clean. What you don't want is for this to overrun into the following strike. Here you can hear that the compressor's finishing its job, it's almost reset before the next strike. If I go too far, the compressor hasn't finished returning and it's eating into the next attack. I'm not looking for that. Now I've isolated that attack almost completely. Next, ratio. We're looking for minimal effect here. This isn't about beating the snare up in any way. This is just about making what you have more potent. So you're looking for as little compression as possible to get the result that you want. Let's get right down here. Okay, and at the minute we're taking 22, 23, 24 maybe dB out of this signal. That's way too much. The last is the threshold. Release that. You're only looking to take a couple of dB out of this signal. Two or 3 dB. So release the threshold. Release the threshold back to a point where you're just taking a couple of dB out. And you should hear, when you turn the compressor on and off, that's a little bit more baggy sounding, a little looser sounding, especially at the front end. Now I've got more attack on the snare. It's not the greatest option because I think, if I quickly go back to the mixer here, let's just shut this down a second. Let's have a quick look at the compressor again. As a result, you have, let's turn this up again. Let's just get this in a zone where you can hear the difference. Let's try this again, on and off, bypass. It's cheating a little because it is muting. Let's see if we can do this way. It is a subtle difference. That's the intent. It is not really meant as a way of redesigning your snare sound. This is meant as a way of making your snare sound more potent. This will hit further processing a little harder. This will make your snare or your kick or your guitar or any instrument that has this transient beginning and tonal tail more effective as it goes into the further processing downstream. Any parallel processing you have will be more affected by this sharp attacking snare. What I have in playback here is more or less the same snare sound that I had before. That was the desired intent of this snare. I should already have the snare sound that I want. This is now 3 dB more effective, more punchy. I haven't reshaped it, I've just made it more potent. That's the intent of the A.R.R.T method. It's just a way of very quickly making whatever you want, or whatever the source material is, more potent, more punchy, more harsh, more hard, more effective later on. That's all there is. If there's any more questions on this, feel free to email me. I'll speak to you soon. Cheers, bye.